Within the first image you can see an aquifer. An aquifer is a body of permeable rock that can contain or transmit groundwater. Within the second image you can see an example of saltwater intrusion, which is the movement of saline water into freshwater aquifers, which can lead to contamination of drinking water sources and other consequences. Within the third image you can see a dike. A dike is a long wall or embankment built to prevent flooding from the sea. Within the fourth image you can see an unconfined aquifer, those into which water seeps from the ground surface directly above the aquifer. Within the fifth image you can see an example of a floodplain, which is an area of low-lying ground adjacent to a river, formed mainly of river sediments and subject to flooding. In the sixth image you can see an example of a dam. In this case this is the Hoover Dam. A dam is a barrier constructed to hold back water and raise its level, the resulting reservoir being used in the generation of electricity or as a water supply. In the seventh image you can see an example of confined aquifers, which are those into which water seeps from the ground surface directly above the aquifer. In the eighth image you can see oligotrophic, which is especially in a lake and has relatively low in plant nutrients and containing abundant oxygen in the deeper parts.
Fish ladders. Fish ladders are a series of pools built like steps to enable fish to bypass a dam or waterfall, and such obstructions can cause complications in a fish's journey. Without them, fish would not be able to get back to the spawning grounds, causing fish populations to dramatically decrease. Hydroponic agriculture. It is a method of growing plants using mineral nutrient solutions in water without soil. It's considered to be high-volume food production that allows growing food anywhere throughout the year, regardless of ground soil conditions, water limitations, and climate. It offers increased food security, using less water and plant nutrient inputs than traditional agriculture. This allows for pesticide-free farming and makes growing some crops possible that would otherwise be impossible when doing so outdoors or in native soil. Aquaponics. It is the combination of aquaculture, raising fish, and hydroponics, growing plants without soil. It's growing fish and plants together in one integrated system. Through nitrifying bacteria, there is the conversion of ammonia from fish waste into nitrates and then nitrates. This serves as an organic food source for the plants, and in turn, the plants naturally filter the water for the fish. It is the perfect example of fish and plants benefiting each other. It minimizes the drawbacks if both processes were carried out individually instead. Groundwater. It is water found underground in the cracks and spaces in soil, sand, and rock. It is stored in aquifers. We are really dependent upon it. Groundwater supplies drinking water for 51% of the total U.S. population and 99% of the rural population. Groundwater helps grow our food. 64% of groundwater is used for irrigation to grow crops. Groundwater is an important component in many industrial processes, and it is a source of recharge for lakes, rivers, and wetlands. Water table. It is the level below which the ground is saturated with water. The water table, also known as the groundwater table, separates the groundwater zone that lies below it from the zone of variation that is above it. However, this groundwater table can change due to climatic variation as the topography of Earth changes too. Artesian wells. It is a well in which water is under pressure, especially one in which the water flows to the surface naturally. Artesian refers to situations where the water is confined under pressure below layers of relatively impermeable rock. The word comes from Artois, France, where the best artesian wells were drilled during the Middle Ages. Desalination. It is a process that removed some amount of salt and other minerals from saline water. Feedwater sources include brackish seawater, wells, rivers and streams, wastewater, and industrial feed and process waters. To separate membranes, driving forces are needed. This includes pressure, which can be implied, vapor electrical potential, or concentration, in order to overcome natural osmotic pressures.
So, first word is atmospheric water, and that's basically like something that extracts water from humid air. Water vapor in the air can be extracted by condensation. It can cool the air below its dew point, pressurize the air. Water vapor is the most important greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, and heat radiated from Earth's surface is absorbed by water vapor molecules in the lower atmosphere. The water vapor molecules in turn radiate heat in all directions, and that's examples of like the cycles that they use in these pictures. And then springs, that is two pictures of springs, like could be natural springs or they could be like hot springs or whatever. People can swim in them. A spring is the result of an aquifer being filled to the point that the water overflows into the land surface. They range in size from intermittent seeps, which flow only after too much rain, or huge pools flowing in hundreds of millions of gallons daily. And they are not just limited to Earth's surface. They could be like hot or cold. Humans altering availability of water is basically like stopping the water from flowing freely, like could be a spring or something like that, or lakes or rivers, like things like dams and aqueducts that like limit the amount of water that can flow through and be used for like drinking supply and water use, things like that. And those pictures are like examples of that. Agriculture is the science or practice of farming, including cultivation of the soil for the growing of crops and the rearing of animals to provide food, wool, or other products, like anything like that. And in these pictures, they're just like using the agriculture and farming. Irrigation is the supply of water to land or crops to help growth, typically by means of channels, like those devices that they're using in these pictures for like a large farming area, like the agriculture. It could supply the water for the irrigation of the crops so that they can be harvested. And they usually have these devices to do that. A mesotrophic lake is a lake with an intermediate level of productivity. These lakes are commonly clear lakes and ponds with beds of submerged aquatic plants and medium levels of nutrients. The term mesotrophic is also applied to terrestrial habitats. They have moderate nutrient levels, but in these pictures you can see that what a mesotrophic lake is with like the depth in feet, and then it's shown in like an actual picture of it, like that's like a real lake. Eutrophic lake is relating to or being in a condition of eutrophy or healthy or adequate nutrition or development, characterized by an abundant accumulation of nutrients that support a dense growth rate of algae and other organisms, the decay of which depletes the shallow waters of oxygen in summer. So this shows like the pictures like mesotrophic lakes. It shows like the depth in feet and like what a eutrophic lake would look like, and then it shows a picture of a real example of one.